Tonight, I'm about to do something most people wouldn't dare attempt, even for $1 million. I'm going to spend 24 hours alone in the world's most haunted forest. No camera crew, no safety net, just me, the trees, and whatever else is out there, waiting. Welcome back to Scary Moo. If you think you've seen it all, trust me, you haven't seen anything like this. I know what you're thinking. Haunted forests are just stories, right? Urban legends and campfire tales meant to scare kids. But the forest I'm about to enter has a reputation so dark, even the bravest locals refuse to go near it after sunset. For centuries, it's been called the Devil's Hollow, a twisted tangle of ancient trees, shrouded in constant mist, roots that seem to reach for your feet, and a silence so deep it feels alive. People go missing here. Some who come back are never the same. Others are never found at all. Why do I do this? Because I need to know. I need to see with my own eyes what lurks in the places people are too terrified to explore. I need to prove, maybe to myself more than anyone else, that some nightmares are real. So, if you're ready, let's step into the darkness together. But be warned. Once you enter Devil's Hollow, you may never see the world the same way again. The day began with a chill, the kind that seeps into your bones even though the sun is shining. The entrance to the forest is marked only by a rotted wooden sign, its lettering worn away by decades of rain and wind. No birds, no animals, just an unnatural quiet, broken only by the crunch of dead leaves under my boots. Within minutes, I felt eyes on me. No, not animals. Something heavier, older, full of hatred. Legend says Devil's Hollow was once the site of a forgotten village. Hundreds of years ago, the people who lived here vanished overnight. Some say a plague took them. Others whisper of a ritual gone wrong, a desperate attempt to summon something that should have stayed buried. Since then, the forest has been cursed. People hear voices, see things moving between the trees. Some even claim to be chased by shadowy figures with hollow eyes and mouths stretched in silent screams. The first hour passed in eerie silence. I tried to keep my mind busy, repeating facts and stories I'd read about the place. But there's only so much you can do when the air feels thick, pressing against your skin, making each breath harder than the last. I set up a small camp in the heart of the woods, near an old well rumored to be the center of the curse. The ground around it is blackened, as if scorched by fire. No grass grows here. Locals say if you drop a stone into the well, you'll hear it hit water, and then you'll hear it scream. I dropped a stone in, because of course I did. The sound that came back wasn't just an echo. It was a wail, high-pitched, desperate, inhuman. I tried to laugh it off, but my hands were shaking. I told myself it was the wind. It's always the wind, isn't it? But the wind doesn't whisper your name. As dusk fell, the forest transformed. Shadows lengthened. The mist thickened, wrapping itself around the trees, hiding them from view. The silence deepened, so absolute that even my own footsteps sounded foreign. I heard the first voice then. Soft, broken, pleading for help. It sounded close, but when I turned, there was nothing. Just trees and that ever-present mist. My flashlight flickered for a second, and in that moment, I saw a figure. A woman in tattered white, her hair hanging over her face, arms outstretched. She vanished as soon as the light stabilized. I told myself it was a trick of the eyes. But the cold creeping up my spine said otherwise. I tried to eat, but every bite tasted of ash. The stories say the forest feeds on fear. It twists reality, makes you see things that aren't there, until they are. I remembered the tale of the 3 hunters who vanished in these woods a decade ago. Their tents were found, ripped to shreds. Their gear scattered, but no blood, no bodies. Only claw marks gouged deep into the trees, higher than any animal could reach. By midnight, the forest was alive with sound. Not the comforting noises of nature, but whispers, hundreds of them, layered over each other, so you can't understand the words. Just the intent. I tried to record them on my phone, but the screen flickered, then died. The battery was fully charged when I left home. Now, it wouldn't even turn on. I felt alone, truly alone, for the first time in my life. I walked in circles, each step taking me deeper into the madness. The trees seemed to shift, branches reaching down like fingers, blocking the path behind me. I saw shapes moving between trunks, too tall, too thin, their faces blurred. I called out, but my voice was swallowed by the mist. Then the laughter started, low at first, almost like a cough, then rising in pitch until it echoed all around me. Mocking. I ran, stumbling over roots, branches clawing at my clothes and skin. I found a clearing, the moon barely visible through the swirling fog. In the center stood a massive tree, its bark blackened and twisted, symbols carved deep into the wood. The ground at its base was littered with animal bones, arranged in circles, triangles, strange patterns I didn't recognize. The air stank of rot and something sweeter, like decaying flowers. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I tried to leave, but every path led me back to that cursed tree. This is where the stories say the villagers made their final stand. Where they tried to banish whatever they'd unleashed. Some say their souls are trapped here, bound to the tree, doomed to relive their last moments over and over. I knelt, feeling the ground vibrate beneath my hands. The symbols seemed to pulse with a sickly light. I heard footsteps behind me, heavy, deliberate, crunching through the leaves. I turned, but there was nothing. Then, from the corner of my eye, a shadow darted past. I spun around, but the clearing was empty except for the bones, the tree, and me. I tried to leave again. The forest wouldn't let me. Every direction circled back to the clearing. My compass spun wildly, refusing to settle. I screamed, hoping someone, anyone, would hear me. The forest answered with silence. Then, suddenly, the laughter returned, louder, closer, joined by whispers that grew into a roar. My vision blurred. I collapsed, curling into a ball, hands over my ears. I felt something cold brush my ankle, like fingers or the tips of roots searching for warmth. I don't know how long I lay there, paralyzed by fear. Time lost all meaning. It could have been minutes, hours, or centuries. The mist thickened, pressing against my face, filling my mouth and nose until I couldn't breathe. I saw faces in the fog, screaming, weeping, mouths stretched impossibly wide. They begged for help, begged to be released. I tried to reach out, but they dissolved, leaving only the echo of their cries. Eventually, the mist lifted, just enough for me to see the edge of the clearing. I forced myself to my feet, every muscle screaming in protest. I staggered forward, refusing to look back at the tree, the bones, the faces in the mist. The forest seemed to close in behind me, sealing the clearing away. I walked for what felt like hours, the trees watching me with silent, ancient malice. My flashlight flickered, then died completely. I was alone in the dark, guided only by instinct, or maybe something else. At some point, I heard singing. A child's voice, sweet and haunting, drifting through the trees. I followed it, desperate for any sign of life. The melody twisted, warping into something ugly, discordant. I stumbled into another clearing, this one filled with broken dolls, their faces cracked, eyes missing. Each was nailed to a tree, arms outstretched in a grotesque parody of crucifixion. The singing stopped. In the silence, I heard footsteps behind me, light and quick, like a child's. I turned, heart in my throat, but saw only shadows. I ran again, the dolls' empty sockets following me as I fled. The night dragged on. My mind played tricks on me, memories twisted, voices morphing into the screams of the lost villagers. I saw flashes of movement, glimpses of figures half hidden by the trees. Once, I caught a pair of eyes staring at me from the undergrowth, wide, unblinking, reflecting the faintest trace of light. I shouted, but the eyes vanished, replaced by laughter that echoed through the woods. I lost track of time. Hunger gnawed at my stomach, but fear kept me moving. At one point, I found a stone altar, covered in dried blood and feathers. Symbols carved into the rock matched those on the cursed tree. The ground around it was littered with animal carcasses, their bodies twisted in agony. I felt sick, bile rising in my throat. The air shimmered, and for a moment, I saw figures gathered around the altar, hooded, chanting, knives flashing in the moonlight. I blinked, and they were gone. But the blood remained, fresh and sticky, seeping into the earth. The forest was alive with malice. Every rustle, every creak, felt like a threat. I tried to keep moving, but exhaustion slowed me down. My legs felt like lead, my thoughts sluggish and confused. I remembered the stories. How the forest drives people mad. How it feeds on your fears until you become part of its legend. I wondered if I would be next. As dawn approached, the forest seemed to grow angry. The mist thickened, swirling around me in choking waves. The whispers rose, overlapping until they became a deafening cacophony. I felt hands grabbing at me, cold, skeletal, pulling me toward the ground. I fought, clawing at the earth, desperate to escape their grip. My vision blurred, spots dancing before my eyes. I screamed, but my voice was lost in the roar of the damned. Then, as suddenly as it began, the noise stopped. The mist lifted. Sunlight filtered through the trees, weak and pale but real. The forest was silent again, but not the comforting silence of before. This was the hush of something sated, something watching from the shadows, waiting for the next victim. I staggered to the edge of the woods, collapsing just outside the tree line. I looked back once and saw the woman in white, standing among the trees, her eyes hollow, her mouth open in a silent scream. She raised a hand in farewell, or was it a warning? I survived 24 hours in the world's most haunted forest. But I didn't leave alone. Something came back with me, something I can't see, but feel every time I close my eyes. The nightmares haven't stopped. The whispers follow me, even here. If you're thinking about testing your courage in a place like Devil's Hollow, remember this. Some doors should never be opened. Some forests want you to come in, but will never let you leave. If you made it to the end of this nightmare, you're braver than most. Or maybe just as curious as I am. If you want more real horror, more stories that blur the line between legend and nightmare, make sure you subscribe to Scary Moo. I'll be back soon, with more tales from the shadows. But until then, sleep with the lights on. And if you ever hear your name whispered from the darkness, don't answer.